Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning on our Ingram Micro Cloud update, our Microsoft Cloud update for December 2017. My name is Craig Boved. I'm the National Sales Manager here for the Ingram Micro Cloud team, and joining me today, as always, is Robert Crane, Director of CAI Ops and Microsoft MVP. So just to give you a bit of an overview of our session today, I'm going to hand you over in a couple of seconds across to Rob. Rob's going to take us through all the latest updates on Microsoft Office 365 and Azure World. Then I'm going to take you through a little bit of an overview of our Ingram Micro Easy Azure Blueprints that we just recently launched at Microsoft Summit, and where you can find all those and download all the step-by-step guides to getting going on Azure. And there's just a couple of quick updates for Microsoft on our Ingram Micro Cloud around the new Windows CSP offerings and the Microsoft 365 Business and where to find those. And then we'll just close off with a couple of upcoming events. But for now, let me hand you over to Rob to take us through all the latest updates in the world of Microsoft Cloud. Rob, are you there?
Yes, Craig, can you hear me?
I've got you loud and clear.
Excellent. All right, so let's work through all these updates. So next slide, please. Okay, so basically, for those of you unaware, we had the Microsoft Summit here in Sydney a couple of weeks ago. Lots and lots of content, lots and lots of sessions. So we had the Partner Summit and then we had the Technical Summit as well. If you want some information about what transpired at the Partner Summit, then there's the link there. You can go and check it out to get all the information about what it means to be a partner and the updates that Microsoft is bringing for partners. Now, the other one that I'll call out here is the Australian Partner Yammer Group. So, again, it's free for partners to join up. Again, you basically just go to that URL. You may need to be accepted into the group. So, again, just request access. And then this will give you access to an area in Yammer that allows you to converse not only with people from Microsoft, but also other resellers. So this is a great resource for you to tap when you've got questions about the product or when you've got questions about your partner entitlements or you want to find the right contact at Microsoft, for example. So this is monitored by Microsoft staff as well as other resellers. So it's a great resource and certainly something I would commend that all partners get into and, again, take advantage of. Now, speaking of a community side of things, the larger community is the Microsoft Tech community. If you haven't visited that, again, that's got lots and lots of forums, things on Office 365, Microsoft technologies, Windows 10. This is the location where you will find, for example, all the slides from the Tech Summit. So the Tech Summit in Sydney, and it moves to the next location, will move around the world, and obviously that content will be updated around as it happens. So if you join the tech community, you'll be able to get access to those slides, things like the Microsoft Ignite events, lots and lots of training videos, lots and lots of announcements are going into that area. Plus, you can go and ask questions of a worldwide audience, including Microsoft staff from Redmond, and get answers to those really curly questions. So again, if you haven't signed up, I certainly recommend that you go and take a look at not only the Australian Yammer Group, but also the Microsoft Tech community. Put that on your list of resources as a partner that you need to get into. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's start talking about our Office 365 update. So the first thing that we've seen come out from Microsoft is some new usage report for Microsoft Teams. Now, these reports are available from the Admin Center in your Office 365 port. So if you go into your admin portal and have a look at reports, you'll see ones for Exchange, you'll see ones for SharePoint, and now you'll see ones for Teams. So this will give you an indication of the uptake of Teams in your environment. It will give you some metrics that you can use to work out your adoption and how well that's being adopted across your organisation. And remember that we're expecting to see more and more details and options be available in these reports as we go forward. So keep an eye on that. Have a look at them. Some really good information in there. You can, for example, export these to a spreadsheet. You can also filter those lists. So if you haven't gone in and had a look, I'd certainly recommend you have a look at that for all the services that you have in Microsoft 365 so that you can basically get a better idea of your adoption and, again, how your users are actually using the services that you have subscribed to. Next, please. So one of the updates that was announced for OneDrive for Business is a new external sharing option. Now, we all know that sharing with external parties can be a bit cumbersome when it comes to requiring a login and a password and authentication. So if you do want to verify your address or have your external party verify their address, typically they would use their email address to do that and needed a password. Now, that, as you can appreciate, can be a bit cumbersome, especially for those who may not be as skilled using logins to Office 365. Now, Microsoft has given us the ability here to basically, when we share a document with somebody external, what's basically going to happen is you're going to receive a request, and then all the user does is click on to send a code. So what will happen is they will receive an email, they'll then click the button to send a code, then they'll be emailed a code, they enter that code, verify that information, and then they can access the file that you have given them access to. Now, that token or that access code is good generally out of the box for 30 days, but you can go in as an administrator and you can adjust that as you see fit. So basically now, instead of having to go through a login and a password, we can now basically share just using a verification code. So again, that verification code by default is good for 30 days. After that, the user will be required to re-verify another code, and then they can keep using the document. But as an administrator, you can certainly control that at the back end. But this is certainly going to make it easier to share files not only in OneDrive, but also in SharePoint. So this option now is available worldwide. So go in and check it out inside your own tenant. Next, please. Okay, so one of the things to make life easier for administrators is using PowerShell. Now, one of the items that was lacking when it came to PowerShell was the ability to manipulate Microsoft Teams. Well, Microsoft has announced that Teams now support some basic PowerShell commands, as many of those you can see in this graphic here. So we've got the ability to add a team. We can also do things with channels. We can, again, control things like guest settings. So using PowerShell is probably the preferred way to admin an Office 365 and an Azure tenant these days because it gives you the benefit of automation and consistency. So if you create a script that, for example, creates a team and then adds members, you can automate that and apply that in many, many locations. So again, one of the key things that if you haven't as yet dived into managing your Office 365 with PowerShell, certainly recommend it. And now we have that ability to go in and work with our Teams services thanks to PowerShell, the module that's just been announced. So again, more flexibility and more ways to improve the administration process of Office 365. Next, please. Now, one of the common requests that's been out there is that, if you aren't aware, that the Business Premium plan and also the Microsoft 365 for Business plan receives a number of additional apps. These apps include bookings and the recently announced invoicing, listings, connections, and the MileIQ app. Now, previously, these hadn't been available for any other plan except for Business Premium. But the good news is that Microsoft is now making those apps available for enterprise plans. Now, what needs to happen basically is you follow the URL down the bottom. You basically go into your Office 365 environment. You go in and purchase one of a SKU that's called Business Apps, and that's a free SKU, so there's no cost to do that. But you do need to go through a purchase style arrangement. No funds are withdrawn, and then that will be added to your plan. Now, remember that not all the services are available worldwide. So in Australia here, we don't see invoicing or listings or connections as yet. all right, but we certainly do see bookings. So as soon as you go in and add the business apps for your e-plans, you will definitely see bookings appear in your SKU, and you can start using that and integrating that inside your environment. Okay, now we also expect that when the other business apps do roll out to Australia, so when invoicing is rolled out to Australia, hopefully in the near future, then that will also become available via this business app. So you won't have to do anything else. If you've already enabled it, it will then appear in your tenant when it becomes available. So again, for customers and yourselves who probably have e-plans, you can now go in and basically purchase the business apps at no cost and add them to your enterprise plans and start using some of these features that have been part of the business premium SKU for a little while now. So again, go in, have a look at that. Certainly recommend you have a look at bookings. Bookings is definitely available and works quite well. Next, please. Okay, so one of the things that Microsoft has promised for a while is the ability for you to bring your own encryption key to Office 365. So Office 365 data, SharePoint, Exchange is encrypted at rest, but obviously it's encrypted using Microsoft's key. That's usually the best for most users. However, if you are someone who wants to bring their own key, who wants to be in full control of the encryption of their information, you can certainly do that now. Now, the article there will step you through the frequently asked questions about how the key is involved, what's involved, what you need to do. Now, again, this does provide you with additional security, so that if you bring your own key and Microsoft tries to look at the data, or the US government tries to second the information, then they're not able to basically make sense of it because you've brought your own encryption key. Now, on the other side is you need to consider the maintenance, uptake, and management of that. So when you bring your own key, with great power comes great responsibility. So that means that the encryption of your data is in your own hands. That means you're responsible for it. If for some reason that key is unavailable, or it's not installed, or you get issues, then Microsoft really is going to be able to help you to generally recover your data because you've encrypted that information. So again, keep that in mind. Again, it is an option that is available for Office 365 and for Azure for you to bring your own encryption key, put that in so the data then is encrypted in the Microsoft environment so that only you have guaranteed access to it. Next, please. All right, so one of the things that SharePoint has given us of late is the news articles. So we can create a modern team site, and that will then allow us to create items where we can go in and punch in news updates for different sites. Now, that information currently bubbles up to the SharePoint summary page where you see the list of all your SharePoint team sites. And now with the latest update to the SharePoint mobile app, you will get those notifications pushed out to you on your mobile device, as you can see here. So again, if you have a structure that you want news to be sent out to your users on their mobile devices, then again, you set up the news item inside your team site, and then that will bubble up into the SharePoint summary page, but now will also go as notifications thanks to the SharePoint app on your mobile device. Now, again, remember that when you do work with things like SharePoint, OneDrive, Delve, and so on, that there are mobile apps for each one of these applications and services. So make sure that you have those installed on your customers' machines, because that certainly makes the experience much better. One of the key ones I would recommend is Office Lens. Office Lens also had a recent update. So Office Lens is an application that allows you to take a picture, convert that picture into scanned text, into searchable text, whether that's a whiteboard, a document, a business card, or whatever. So again, these little add-ons really certainly enhance the features and capabilities of Office 365. And again, one of them I would highly recommend is the SharePoint app, because again, not only do you get access to your SharePoint sites, but you'll also get the ability now to receive notifications to news items no matter where they reside inside your environment. Next, please. So for those of you who may not be aware, underneath the covers of Office 365 is an automation engine known as Flow. So Flow allows us to basically automate processes. So, for example, we could say that when an email comes in, that the attachment is automatically copied to a location in SharePoint. Another option maybe is to take the output from a Microsoft form and put it into a SharePoint list and so on. Now, what has been missing has been the ability to work with Flow and a user's OneDrive. So OneDrive is the location for the user's individual files, and now that we have this integration with Flow. So this allows you and the users to create automation processes around and with their OneDrive. So, for example, the one that I've got on screen here is it will convert a selected file to a PDF and then basically upload that to OneDrive. So, again, one of the most common things we find in businesses is very laborious and repetitive processes can be eliminated very quickly and easily using something like Flow. So Flow is a very easy tool to work with. You basically use it in block form. You basically say, when this happens, do this, take this branch, take these actions, and you have full access to the Office 365 services like OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, but you also have access to third-party applications. So you can also get access to things like Twitter and Facebook, and you can also trigger things on time events, websites, all sorts of things. So if you haven't had a look at Flow, my advice would be is pick a process which you do on a regular basis that is primed for automation and look at doing it inside Flow. But the good news here is now we can start working with our automation and our OneDrive, and that's going to potentially, again, reduce the amount of time that we spend doing repetitive tasks. Next, please. Now, Teams has obviously been out for a while. It's really great, and again, in the general way that Microsoft uses its services or provides its services to people, is that it's done in a way that's generally aimed at for everybody collaborating together. So it's generally very open in the way that it approaches it. Now, when we create a Microsoft team, we get a general channel immediately. So as soon as you create a team, you get a SharePoint site, you get a planner, but you also get a general channel. Now, we really can't delete this channel. What we've now been given here by Microsoft is the ability to control who can post to that general channel. So maybe you want to use that general channel just as an announcement. So again, more of a push notification rather than a conversation. You would go in and create additional channels to have the conversations around the environment and certainly have people in to do that. But maybe you want to make the general channel basically just push only so people can only consume information. So now in the settings of the team, you'll see that we can go in and we can control who can post to the general channel. So by default, anyone will be able to post messages. And again, you'll see that you can restrict it down to the fact that only owners of the team can post messages. So if you want to, you get the general channel by default, and now we can control who can actually post in that. Again, this is typically aimed at the environment where you want the general channel maybe just kept clear for announcements, updates, and notifications across your whole environment. Next, please. So let's start talking about some of the stuff that we've seen come with Azure. Now, one of the most common requests or one of the most common stumbling blocks or confusion points or pain points when it comes to something like Azure is how to manage costs, or how to keep on top of costs, because Azure is a different billing model from Office 365. So Azure is consumption-based. You pay for what you use. The more you use, the more potentially that you'll have to pay. So keeping on top of costs is really a challenge these days with so many services and the granularity. Now, Microsoft recently went out and purchased a company called Cloud9. So Cloud9 allows you to look at your cloud-based services, not only Azure, but AWS and Google, bring all those into a console, and again, you can get graphs and you can get information and you can get alerts and things like this. So it's a dedicated costing management platform. Now, with Microsoft's purchase of that, it has rolled it into basically its cost management service, which you can see the URL down the bottom. So you can go to that URL, you can sign up for free. All right, so as a partner, you can certainly sign up for free. Customers are getting, I believe, a free trial until I think about March next year. After that, we haven't seen any price announcement as yet. If you want to use Cloud9 with AWS and Google as well as Azure, well, then you would need to pay a slight fee for that. So it is free for Azure, but other cloud services you may need to pay for. But at the moment, it is free for partners. If you want to get a handle on your costs when it comes to Azure for you or for your customers, again, go into the URL down the bottom in the Azure cost management area and sign up and add that to your environment, and again, start pulling in the information so that you can see the cost. Now, don't forget also that Azure has something called the Azure Advisor, okay, which will give you that as well. Next, please. All right, so the reserved instances go general availability. So if you haven't heard, Azure now has the ability for you to reserve a virtual machine for a 1 or a 3-year period. So basically, when you cost it out, you can go in and reserve that, commit to that over that 12 months or that 3-year period. You do have some flexibility if you do need to change that, but make sure you check the terms and conditions. Now, obviously, when you sign up for a reserved instance, a guarantee for that VM, you will save a significant amount of money. So depending on the instance and, again, the options you've got a 72% saving against pay-as-you-go. And if you bring in your hybrid benefit, so that's a license that you may have through software assurance or your enterprise agreement, you can also save additional money there. So potentially you can get down to around 82%. So remember that when you're quoting or when you're looking at the costing of virtual machines, there now is an option which is in the price calculator for Azure that you can go in and basically say, look, I want to reserve this machine or commit to this machine for a period of 1 or 3 years. Doing so will significantly reduce your price. And there is some flexibility around that term if it needs to change or you need to do upgrades. But again, make sure you go in and have a look at that and have a look at the URL down the bottom to get more information about that. Next, please. All right, so combined with the reserved instances, we've also got something called low priority VMs. Now, the aim with low priority VMs is to do batch processing. So if you have or your customers have processes that they need to batch out, that they do regularly or that they may need to do at month end or something, then you can look at this option here for low priority VMs. That's obviously going to save you a lot of money because, as we see, it just runs as a lower priority. There is some involvement, some differentiation when it comes to setting up those virtual machines in your environment. All right, so again, have a look at that blog post there. That'll give you some idea of how you can use it and where you can use it. But remember, the low priority VMs are aimed at batch jobs, repetitive processes, month ends, year ends, those sort of jobs which need to run in the background in probably an automated process. Next, please. So you may have seen now that when you log into Office 365 or Azure, you also get this new Keep Me Signed In option, okay? So the idea here is that when you select this option, that it's going to reduce the amount of prompts that a user receives via the browser, okay? So again, selecting this option and then the Do Not Show Me Again, it's obviously going to keep that in your system and it's going to reduce the amount of prompts in that browser session. So there's all different ways to do single sign-on. Again, this is going to improve that experience, and remember that we're probably accessing a lot of these services using non-Microsoft browsers. So using the Microsoft browser and an Azure AD connected machine like Windows 10, we get very few prompts there. But if we have additional browsers like Chrome or Firefox, we want to make sure this is checked. And for Chrome, there is also an add-on that an extension we can get for Chrome that will reduce the amount of logins that happen through a browser. So again, if you want more information about how this sign-on experience works and, again, the steps Microsoft have taken to reduce the logins, then, again, have a look at the URL that I've got there. Next, please. Azure Events, right? So if you're interested in knowing exactly what's happening and when, whether it's a community event or whether it's a Microsoft event that has been arranged, go to this URL here. You can search by country and products, and it will throw up a list of all the upcoming Azure events for you. So again, we mentioned in the beginning there about the Yammer network. We mentioned about the tech community. So again, lots and lots of events happening around Azure. You want to get involved. You want to get up to speed. You want to have more information about the products and services that are offered by Azure. I'd certainly recommend that you go in and keep an eye on this website here, type in what you want, put your location, and it's going to give you a range of events that are happening all around your local area that you can participate in. Next, please. So one of the other things Microsoft has released to general availability is system state backup. So what that means is that Azure Backup allows you to put an agent on a workstation or a server. You can then target files and folders like the old traditional NT backup. You can back them up in an encrypted manner directly into Azure. Now, what Azure Backup doesn't do is it typically won't back up open files. It won't back up running databases like SQL, and before it wouldn't do system state. But now Microsoft has added in the agent effectively to allow you to go in and back up your system state. So this would include servers running Active Directory, standard file servers, iOS environments, and those sort of things. So we would expect to see more of these agents added into Azure Backup and allowing you to back up more items in running environment. If you do need to back up things like an running SQL database or a SharePoint site on-prem, then Azure has basically an application backup that allows you to do that, slightly different configuration, but that is available. However, the most basic Azure file backup now, again, allows you the ability to back up the system state of your PC or your server so that you can basically do a recovery of that environment. Now, remember that when we do back up to Azure, we get free transfers of the data into and out of Azure, so there's no cost to transfer data into Azure, and now with backups, there's no cost to transfer data out of Azure. And again, we get a nice single management pane that we can manage all our backups, we can get alerts, we can get reporting. So remember, as a partner, that you get access to the Microsoft internal use rights for Azure. You get rolling credits every month. One of the best places to start getting a handle on Azure or start using it in your own environment is to look at doing Azure backup for your machines. Even your home machines are a great option. So again, all it is putting an agent on those machines, targeting a location in Azure, scheduling your backup, and away you go. So highly recommend you have a look at that. Costs are quite low, and now we've got additional flexibility with the system state option. Next, please. So one of the other challenges a lot of resellers have is how do we size the VM? So one of the different ways to think about it is when you generally do on-prem environments, you're generally going to overspec because you're looking to make a machine last for 3 years or whatever the period of time is. It's somewhat different with Azure because you can upgrade your Azure machine so easily by simply just selecting the size and then picking a more powerful machine. So therefore, there's not that concern, there's not that hardware worry, it's all effectively software. So therefore, we can look at potentially under-speccing the VM somewhat because it's so easy to upgrade. Now, how do we actually choose the right VM based on workload? So there's a great little blog post here that will take you through some basics and give you some outlines of how you go about sizing and pricing a virtual machine here. How do you pick the best one for the job? So remember that in the traditional ways, in SBS days, everything was on one box, and that box used to need to be super powerful. These days, with the flexibility in Azure, we can either break those machines, those roles out into individual virtual machines. So we can have a machine that's dedicated to doing AD. That machine doesn't need to be nearly as powerful. We might have one member server and an RDS server, for example. So we can break these all out. Now, the other way we can look at this, don't forget that Azure also does nested virtualization. So we can now run up a virtual machine in Azure, and we can run the Hyper-V Manager inside of that, and that gives us that flexibility as well. So lots and lots of options when it comes to setting up your infrastructure as a service environment in Azure, And one of the key places to start is selecting the right or the appropriate VMs for the environment, and this blog post here will certainly give you the steps in that direction. Next, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, one of the other things that Microsoft makes available in Azure is something called the Azure Advisor, and this has been improved. So the Azure Advisor will basically look at your environment, and it can look down to individual virtual machines, for example, and it can give you a better idea of how to improve your costings or how to reduce the costing. So it can look at them and say, maybe this virtual machine is too powerful for its needs, or maybe it can be switched off for a period of time on a regular basis. Again, you'll see that you've got a nice dashboard here. You've got your recommendations, you've got security, performance, and your cost options as well. You can just drill into each of these. And remember, one of the big advantages with Azure Advisor is it sits across everything basically in Azure. So you're going to be able to look at this at a high level throughout your whole environment to get optimization on your security, optimization on your cost, and also your performance. If you want, you can drill down to individual items. Okay, so again, if you haven't had a look at your Azure Advisor, go in, run it, let it do a scan, have a look at it, and get some idea of what sort of recommendations it's making for your environment. Remember, it's there to help you to optimize the cost looking at the usage that you have in that tenant. So again, has had some additional options added to it. Have a look at that blog post to give you an idea of exactly what has been added to that environment. So I think with that, Craig, I'm pretty much done with my updates.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Rob. And just a quick couple of tags on the back of that. So where Rob was talking around with Teams and the new ability to do PowerShell, make sure if you are just getting into PowerShell, check out our Cloud Elevate On Demand portal, and Rob's doing a Getting Started with PowerShell lesson there for us. And then also just in regards around to the Azure Reserved Instances, just keep in mind that under CSP, that is still rolling out. We expect to see that option available under CSP earlier next year. So just quickly, I just wanted to take you through the new Easy Azure Blueprints that we launched at Microsoft Summit a couple of weeks ago. And just a quick reminder here around our Azure Acceleration Program. So if you are just getting started with Azure, make sure you do sign up to our Easy Azure program. You've got access to all the on-demand content that we've built out on our Cloud Elevate On Demand and our blueprints. And if you are looking at working on a couple of solutions, make sure that you reach out to our team and we can get you in touch with our Azure specialists and help you start working through some of those different possibilities that you've got there as well. So just quickly, if you haven't already, make sure that you navigate to ingrammicrocloud.com.au/easyazure. This is our new page that we've just recently launched, and on that you'll be able to find all the blueprints that we've started to release around some of the key Azure workloads. You've got the ability just to download all of these blueprints. You'll see here across our protection bracket, we've got backup, we've got disaster recovery, we've got security. All the guides in there are really simple, step-by-step, follow the bouncing ball guides to spin up those workloads. Really easy way to get across the Azure portal and some of those key services within there. Now, we've also just started rolling out some of our blueprints across our management stream. So you'll see there across monitor, audit, and high availability. Really good key things, especially across things like SQL, Active Directory within there also. The final one that we've got that we've just started rolling out is across expansion. So you'll see a couple of these workloads around things like WordPress, spinning up a web server. A good favorite of mine there under hybrid is the remote desktop server options as well. Obviously a really key workload for small businesses. Now, finally, just wanted to give you an update on some of the new features that we've just launched in the cloud marketplace for Microsoft. So obviously recently, the Microsoft 365 Business and Enterprise subscriptions had just launched. Now, they are in a slightly different place to the standard Office 365 subscriptions. You'll see here that these are located under business applications within the marketplace. And there you'll see both the Microsoft 365 and the Windows 10 Enterprise options on there. Now, just as you go into the Microsoft 365, you'll see that both Microsoft 365 Business and Microsoft 365 Enterprise has launched within there. As standard, giving you both the monthly billing options and the annual billing options there as well. Now, when we get to the Windows 10 Enterprise within there, just so you're aware, there are a new couple of options for Windows 10 Enterprise in there that you'll see. So under Windows 10 Enterprise E3, you actually have a couple of different options. There's the standard E3 CSP subscription. They've also just recently launched the ability to have a local-only version of CSP Windows 10 in there as well. And then finally, latest option around actually having a VDA subscription option for Windows 10 Enterprise in there. And obviously those are all wrapped up into the Enterprise E5. But again, if you're looking at rolling out Windows 10 under CSP, it doesn't always have to be wrapped into those Microsoft 365 Business and Enterprise options. You've now got those options there standalone on the Ingram Micro Cloud Marketplace. And finally, just to wrap up, look, make sure that if you haven't already, started claiming all your sales on the Cloud Movers program. This is running through until the end of December. We've still got a series of auctions to run, and obviously the big prize is to win the helicopter tour through the Hunted Valley. Again, that finishes right at the end of this month, so you've got right up until the end of the year to make sure that you claim all your sales on there. And finally, coming up on Thursday the 14th is our final in our series on the Microsoft 365 overviews, Microsoft 365 Enterprise overview. Previous ones have been covering what's in Microsoft 365 Business, and finally now just covering up what's available and what's different in the Microsoft 365 Enterprise options there. And as always, any questions, make sure you reach out to the team, iamcloud@ingrammicro.com, or give us a call on 0293816735. Jump onto our website, ingrammicrocloud.com.au, and make sure you follow us across LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Again, today's session will be sent out with the deck, and we'll be popping this into YouTube. But for now, that's it from us. Thank you once again for joining us this afternoon, and we'll catch you all later. Thank you.